right, hey everybody. We are here today with a writer, band leader, and guitar player here in town, Brandon Vogt. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
I met you, I'm sure, at Brian Ruskin's jam.
Yes.
Yeah, or
That's
it's
right.
not jam, his show at the Phoenix.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
And him and Caleb, another other saxophone player in his band, have both been on the show before. And tell me a little bit about those guys. I mean, Brian's out of control. I mean, he's a great player.
Right. Yeah. Well, I first moved up here after college, and I was kind of looking for a guitar teacher, kind of half-ass looking, and my buddy was like, hey, there's this guy named Brian Ruskin, and he teaches guitar lessons at Funky Music, and he's into jazz and stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And so I went there, and I took lessons from him for like 2 years, like pretty weekly or bi-weekly at least, and just he taught me how to improvise. I didn't know how to play changes. He taught me how to play changes. And some very foundational stuff that's I still use to this day, and he's influenced me a lot in my playing. And he's amazing, his playing is amazing. So and then I started playing with him here and there, the open jams, and that's where I met you. And I met Caleb that way too. Brian kind of got me into the music scene. He just would invite me out to jam with him.
Right.
And I was like, oh, this is cool. Yeah. And that's when I worked at an insurance company. But
that's cool, man, because he's a great improviser. And he really would have a lot of good insight, at least in his own head. You can't even start to say that he doesn't get it.
He gets it.
He gets it.
He knows his shit, man.
So that was probably a really good influence for you to watch him, because I think that, and I guess this maybe leads into the band a little bit that you're in, is that I think, especially me coming to hear you guys, what's the band's name again?
Satori.
Satori, yeah. Yes. When I heard you guys at Westport or California's, it was hilarious to hear you guys' band, because it was really obviously similar to stuff that I love to listen to, and then it was mildly similar to what Brian's doing. There's some similarities there, and I'd bet that you guys' music taste, you and Brian, just as teacher-student, I'm sure you guys hit it off like crazy.
Well, he showed me, he opened me up to a lot of music that I'd never heard of, like Bela Fleck and the Flecktones and the Bad Plus, bands like that, and I love. Now, those are two of I really like those bands a lot, and just the whole scene of just higher level musicianship stuff, where it's like, oh, I can understand this now, because he's teaching me how this is done, and this is more, I can appreciate it more, and then I can really lose myself in that music. Before, it might have been too heady for me. Right.
This is how to count this ridiculous 13/8.
This is where one is.
This is where one is. It's 13/8.
Oh, I feel it now.
Now we're in 11/8. And then you've got chord. You're just like, ugh, kill me now.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys hit it off. So you're. I know one thing that I've noticed that I was talking to Eddie Moore about when he came in was that a lot of these guys that because I got here about 8-ish years ago too, and I had a lot of music training before that, but the gigging world was still really new to me. I'd played many orchestra concerts and crap like that, but the gigging, especially like the jazz and blues world and stuff.
Sure.
And Eddie was another one of those people that kind of got done with college right around that time. So we were a lot of random people, and I think you and I would fit in that category where 5-8-ish years ago, we're kind of out there at Brian's jam, and I'm like, can you let me on stage? And now we're kind of running our own bands, so there's a big process there. Can you tell me a little bit how you got kind of started in music?
For sure. No, that's a great question. I would say whenever I was actually I didn't start playing the guitar till I was 18. I was an athlete. I was obsessed with sports, played a lot of sports. But then when I decided I wasn't going to pursue basketball in college. I infused all my energy into the guitar. And so,
Yeah, turn to 142nd Street.
sorry, I got the GPS. It's still on right now. That's hilarious. Just try to silence this thing. Sorry.
You're already here. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
I
How does it not? It thinks you're not here.
Right. Anyway, so I was, like, in college, I got an accounting degree. Because I just picked up the guitar. I just realized how much I liked it, but I had no idea how to monetize that.
Right.
I didn't think it was going to lead to any kind of money.
Yeah.
I just thought, I'm going to have to get a day job, and then I'll just be the best guitar player I can be. And so then I basically moved to Kansas City, and I worked for an insurance company, and with my accounting degree. And I'd come home and just play guitar for hours. I studied, and I studied under Brian Ruskin. That's where I met him. And then eventually I started realizing, I can play around town. I've got the chops to do this, and I've always been writing. I think I maybe played guitar for 2 years and I was writing music.
That's cool.
I was always doing it to create.
Yeah.
I like playing covers, and I can totally, especially if it's like a good crowd and everybody's just jamming a familiar song. There's something about that is very fun and exciting. But
and songs you like, probably,
sure,
obviously.
They're going to be songs I like. But there's something that's very fulfilling to me when it's my original and it's created with other people, you know, and I've just always been very fulfilled in writing. So I do it, you know, and I've been doing it even while I was in an insurance company, even when even though I hadn't realized being a musician yet, I was still doing it because I could not do it. I was like, it just felt good, you know? And
can't help it.
And I had no problem sharing it with people. I was always just proud of it, and just in a healthy way, you know, like, hey, check this out. What do you think about this? I think this sounds kind of cool. So that was always I was always cultivating that. And so then when I started, then Brian kind of introduced me into the scene, and I started jamming, and I got really obsessed with jazz and being just chops. Because at a jam, you're kind of comparing, you see everybody, and you're like, whoa, these guys are amazing. And it's like, man, I can do this. I need to do this. I need to be amazing too. You know, you go
raise
home.
your game.
Yeah. I got this competitive side of me because the sport's going up, and it's. I like to think of it as a healthy competitive nature, where when I see someone who's kicking ass, they inspire me to kick ass. I don't try to pull them down. I'm just trying to be lifted. You know, and then. That kind of thing, but
that's a big deal because I've been listening to a lot of self-help kind of things lately, and they're talking about this guy. What was it? It was like compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who somebody else is today.
Right.
And I was like, holy crap! Like that's what's up.
Money.
You know, I mean that's
important.
But I totally. I totally relate to your sports analogy there because I have we always talked about the typical personalities in orchestra. We would always joke about it, like the flute players are like the really mousy girls, but like behind your back they're all like conniving, you know, and then you get over to the tuba players and they're all chill and laid back, you know, and then you get over to the trumpet players and they want to like cut your heart out, you know, competitive. And violin players there is, and sport athletes can get this way too, the leader of the quarterback, the prima donna wide receiver, the chill lineman, you know, and like violin players kind of can get that way too, where we're really prima donna-y typically. And that was really funny to go into the viola section when I switched to viola, because all the viola players are like, huh? You know, like that's, I'm joking, you know, but they're like, that's their persona is like, what's going on? You know, I'm joking that they're dumb, but like,
that's fine.
but that's that attitude of having the healthy competition there is really what drives me as well. And it's like, I don't know, I mean, because jealousy is not the right word, but it's part of it. Like you want what they have, but it's not that you want to take them away. Like you said, you don't want to tear them down.
It took me a while to figure that out. Actually, that was important because I remember feeling more jealousy when I was younger. When I was in my 20s, especially when I was working at an insurance company and I was not following my true passion of music. So I was just a little more. It didn't have as much clarity, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And so I was just doing the best I could.
Right.
I drank a lot. I used to drink a lot of booze.
Yeah, sure.
And so it was, I would struggle with that. I would see somebody that was much better than me, and I would get jealous. And then I would work hard to fight the jealousy. But I realized as I got older that that was really unhealthy view. And when I saw them under a different light, as in they're trying to help every musician see their true potential. We're all helping each other.
Right.
When we grow, we show each other, look, this is something you could do too. Right? You're capable of this because we're both humans and we're equal. And, and we can grow together. So then it's like more uplifting. And then you feel gratitude towards them. You're like grateful for them. Jealousy is the opposite. You're like have like a little hatred towards them. Like they're making me feel unworthy because they're better than me. It's like, no, why don't you just get your shit together?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And then
Totally
you can join them.
mindset,
It's flipping it. It's flipping it. That's helped me a lot. That's really important, I think, for people to hear.
Yeah, I know that's what helped me, I think, with that is to realize like the different, like, not learning styles of people, but everybody has stuff that they're really terrible at, and everybody has, because you watch a guy and you have no idea what's in his head. You have no idea what his life has been like or whatever. You realize somebody else, and this happens to all of us when we're like booking people to be in the band, like subs or something, and you're like, well, this guy's a monster player, but like he literally can't answer the phone. He's so distracted himself just in his life. And so I'm like, well, hold on, I'm really organized. I'm not, and so to just remember that about people, he's better at music, but like he's a dick. You know what I mean? Just thinking about different
there's not a direct correlation.
If
you're amazing at music, it doesn't mean you're an amazing person.
And
that is important to know as well.
And we can get into the teaching stuff here in a minute, but that's another thing. A lot of players aren't very good teachers. And there's some people that are not as good at players, but they really understand what they're doing, and they can verbalize, so there's different people have different abilities and skill sets, and so that helped me with the jealousy thing, is realizing this guy on Broadway or whatever is and on Billboard or something is really good, but everybody can't stand him as a person. It's like, so that helped me. But so with your band, so tell me about how kind of the band started then.
So I basically, this is interesting. So I worked at insurance for like 7 years after college, right? And I was pretty unhealthy in general. I drank a lot, overate. I was probably about 30 pounds heavier, short hair. I was kind of secretly miserable working at an insurance company, wanting to be a musician. Knowing that I could do it, just not knowing how to do it. I don't know how I'm going to make money. I got to stay at this job. So ultimately, I actually had a very spiritual experience, and I felt no more fear towards chasing my dreams of becoming a musician. I completely dropped it, and which is kind of a miracle. And then
you mean the insurance place?
Well, after that moment, I actually waited one more year. I worked there one more year, and I had saved up a year's worth of salary, a year's worth of money. And I had so it was like, okay, sweet. Now I got a year to figure it out. And turns out it wasn't as hard as I thought it was. I just started teaching. I put flyers around town, around Mission. I just literally paper flyers like Mr. Good Sense, the grocery store, guitar lessons. I put it on Craigslist. I got a website, and then I started getting some calls. And then I was just doing anything and everything I could just to figure out how to be an entrepreneur. Basically, it's a completely different lifestyle. I'm used to being told what to do, even in school. From kindergarten all the way till I was 29 years old, I was told Monday morning be here, and Friday at 5 you can leave and do.
It's a difference. There's no decisions to make.
And
now you have to do.
Exactly. And it's all self-motivating. You have to be self-motivated, and so I did that, and I decided I was going to learn how to sing. Because I was in bands before that,
Mm-hmm.
mostly cover bands, but we had an original band too. And I was I was fulfilled, but I was always thinking I didn't want to have to wait on somebody to write the lyrics and write a melody. I wanted to just do it all. I'm going to learn how to sing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, fuck it. I'll just write it all. And then I was like, I'm going to write an album. I'm going to sing. I'm going to play all the instruments. And then I'll give those to people. And I'll be like, I'll find the best musicians I can that I know to fill the slots and create a band.
Yeah.
So it's like if you were going to start a band and you were like, and I was like, hey man, you want to be in my band? And you'd be like, maybe, that's cool. But if I give you an album, I just recorded all the music, this is what I sound like.
Right.
Here, listen to that. If you like it, let me know. Like, that's a serious musician. I've made the energy and
you've got a
time.
plan.
I've already started the band.
Yeah.
I've already written a whole album's worth of music. That's how serious I am.
Yeah.
So that was, and I was doing a lot of that just, I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just doing it. I was just so excited. Because once I started singing, I think it was 3 or 4 months after that I had written pretty much the album. I'd never written lyrics before, and I'd never sang before. So the lyrics on my first album and the singing is pretty raw. It's very raw, but I gave it out to like 500 people. You know, I just gave them all away for free. I just wanted everybody to know I'm a musician now.
Yeah.
So, you know, this needs to be shared. You know, I don't work at insurance anymore. I'm a full-time musician.
Yeah.
So, so that was cool. And then I gave Caleb a copy, and it was interesting. I could tell he genuinely liked the music.
Yeah.
He was like, dude, we've been listening to this music. You know, they just put it in, him and his ex-wife just put it in, and they would listen to it all day long as they were cleaning and just carrying on. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. You really like it? And he's like, yeah, this is good. I'm like, awesome. Well, then we obviously started with me, him, and Bree Plaster. And
she's done an interview too.
Nice.
Bree did one, yeah.
And then Jason Crump, he was he's not in the band anymore, but I've known him since high school. He's a really good friend of mine, and we'd always played in bands together, and so he was down. And so that version of the band was probably about a year. I don't know. I'm bad with time. I'm gonna guess like a year, maybe 2 years, a year to 2 years. And we would mostly just play. We would mostly get together and rehearse the material from the album. It first started out where it felt like I have material, you guys play what I wrote. It felt like everybody felt obligated to represent the music, where I was kind of more like, well, do whatever you want with it. I mean, we're obviously going to keep the chord structure and the melody and the essence of the song, but feel free to add some color. You know, Caleb's an amazing improviser. So, and same with Bree, you know, it's like, just get the feel right and then do your thing. Infuse your persona in there. That's a band. Yeah. And so then we started writing more songs and together, and after that, but we weren't getting together that much. It was mostly just before shows, and I realized, okay, for this to work, we need to get together every week. Just has to happen. I just knew that was missing.
Gotta be tight.
And so I emailed everybody, and Bree couldn't make the commitment, and so she parted ways, and it was all good. She's very, very cool person, and very honest and genuine. So, so it was an easy transition because she was so upfront about it, and nobody's feelings were hurt. It was very smooth. And then we went about 6 months without a drummer, and me and Caleb would get together and write. We kept the weekly thing going. And me and Caleb would write music together, and we would collaborate together. And a lot of the material from our first album as a band was from that 6 months.
Yeah, that's cool.
And
it was worth it. It sounded like
you just keep going. Even like that's the thing is every week, even if everybody can't be there, even if it's only 2 people, just work on the band every week. You keep that momentum going. You keep the energy alive, and
still get something done.
Exactly. And so then Joel Shipley came along, and that guy is awesome. Caleb met him through Ruskin. Ruskin had him subbing a few times with the Ruskin Quartet. Do you know Joel Shipley?
Is the drummer?
Yeah. Right. And I remember the first night he came over to jam with me and Caleb. because we've been playing together for like 6 months without a drummer, and it's like there's no life to anything. Like it's still, the ideas are there and it's cool, and we started playing some of these songs we've been working on with a drummer, and I'm like, oh, this sounds amazing, and he fit the vibe perfectly. Like he could feel everything what we were doing and knew how to present it, and he's got great energy, and he kicks ass on the drums. And it was like, whoa, let's convince him to be in our band. And he was all about it from the get-go. So
and that's nice. Interesting because I love what you said, because that's how, when I tried to do the Dudes, my jam band prog rock thing I was running, I had the same problem where it's like I had my songs, my 2 albums, and then I had all these covers that I wanted to do, but I knew what kind of player that I needed, and I knew that I wanted to get jazz guys, or the guys that were that mentality,
right.
and also that quality of technique, caliber.
Yeah.
But when we tried to do like Interstate Love Song or some 90s funky rock kind of songs, I knew that I didn't necessarily have to have him do actual rock beats. I want you to do Brad over the song, not Stone Temple Pilots over the. And so that same thing, like you were saying, of there's something here, but you need to do like 6/8 straight, and do whatever kind of 6/8 straight you feel like doing today, because I know that whatever drum part I'm gonna write for you is not near what you're gonna improvise right now. You're gonna kick, you're So all of a sudden he puts a 6/8 bossa, his bossa over it, and I'm like, oh my goodness gracious, like, and the same thing with like chord wise. I was like, well, these are the sort of chords, but if you feel like a ninth and all this stuff in it, do it. See what happens.
That's collaboration.
That's collaboration.
And that's what you want.
Yes, and so like I gave them enough freedom, like especially like structure wise was another one that I'm like, well, yeah, if we extend this jam an extra minute, whatever. But this next section kind of, so I kind of put my foot down in some spots, but then let them free in other. And so
you need structure.
But you can't do that with certain players. You got to get certain players to be able to.
Well, like that's Miles one interesting thing is when I started forming the band, it was all friends that I had. A friendship was already established with Caleb, with Bree, with Jason. And it was like, these are all my friends, and they want to play with the band. That's another thing I was really hyper aware of. Do you want to play with the band? We want people that want to be here. That's like the number one priority, because if they don't want to be there, it's going to be half-assed music. That's just what happens when you're not inspired. A musician's not inspired. It just sounds half-assed. And it may sound fine, but it doesn't pick up the energy in the room. It doesn't turn people, it's just kind of background music at that point, so... But me and Caleb, Caleb is like a prolific writer. He's written like 100 songs in the past like 2 years. Like he just churns them out. Like he's kind of a freak in that sense. But he, we basically, some of our songs in Satori are just his songs that he wrote, all the parts for, and then I'll usually add my own. That's really fun for me. I get to just be the sideman and add my personality like I want them to do with my music. So I'm going to add these little guitar licks in the background, adding layers of different, melodic lines and stuff, rather than just strumming a chord behind it.
It's nice to see both sides of that, where you get to be kind of the leader, a little bit, or be the follower.
Well, because with Satori, me and Caleb are kind of a two-headed monster almost. We're very much both doing a lot of the writing, lyrically and just form-wise songs. But lately we've been collaborating more as a band, where we just write a song together. What's next? Now we're all doing it, So
that's cool, man. So on that topic of writing, I know there were some things that were on my 2 albums that I did were really easy for me, and then other stuff was really hard. For example, like all the mapping out of the song, coming up with the chords and the beats, and like all that stuff was super easy for me. And I think when I listen to my songs, I can tell that that's really strong. It's a strength. But for me, coming up with like melodies and lyrics was horrible, you know, and I know lyrically I tend to write, you know, he went to the store, he did this, then he came home. You know, it's really direct and it's really dry.
My lyrics are similar too. I have very direct lyrics as well.
Yeah, and definitely lyrically on my 2 albums for myself, I said what I wanted to say, but it wasn't interesting at all. No imagery, and how was, or I'll just ask you, like, was there, like, specifically on the writing, is there something that you are weaker at or that you like doing more than others?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. I think I'm similar to what you just described about yourself, because we studied music for so long.
Yeah.
So we understand the structure, you know, the harmonies, all of it, how it all fits. So it's easy to map something out, right? I actually feel very strong at writing melodies. I feel strong at... and that has something to do with my ability to play the guitar so well. My melodies are strong through the guitar. Through my vocals, though, is where I'm weaker, because I just started singing. Started taking voice lessons when I turned 30. So I'm 36 now. So it's just my weakest instrument. But I'm developing. I'm still developing, right? Yeah. And so
But that's more singing ability, not necessarily the writing of the melody.
Right. But I'm also developing being comfortable singing with emotion. That's where the sweetness, the nectar of it comes through, is your emotions. Because when I'm singing words that resonate with me, that I believe in, I sing in a way that people listen. Yeah. Right? It's hard to explain, but you know what I'm saying?
They feel it.
Yes, because you're feeling it. Yeah. You know? Yeah. But you can't conjure it up. You can't fake it. That. No. Yeah. And so, my first album was all me. I hired a drummer, Phil Wakefield drummed. But otherwise I recorded all the instruments and I sang everything, and so my range was really small because I just learned how to sing and control my pitch. And my lyrics were very simple and very this is how I feel. Yeah. This is what I'm thinking about, right? And in some way, it was refreshing to me, because it was like, okay, that's where I'm at right now. This is the best I got. Yeah. And now I can see it clearly, and now I can grow from that. Yeah. Sure. Right. So then the next album was with Satori. And I wrote lyrics for probably around half the songs on the first album, and Caleb writes his own lyrics too. And I started realizing, my lyrics are getting a little better. They're getting a little more depth and imagery and things of that nature. And then that just keeps kind of growing. But that's just from doing it over and over again. Yeah, just keep doing it and figuring out what is it that I need to do now to keep the thing growing. Yeah. Do I need to have a little more imagery? Well, start writing things down like that, start practicing that. But that's probably, I would say, my weakest. And that's something I'm always working on developing as a musician. Yeah, right now. That's great. But we just got a new vocalist in our band this year, Hannah Shula. Yeah. And she has an amazing voice, and she, when I sing and she's singing harmonies with me now, it's like I sound so much better. So it's giving me more confidence too.
Because she drowns you out.
No, it's so supportive. Like any of the cracks or any of the little nuances in my voice that are
strong.
She's got this strength behind it. Just shines through, and it's like. So that's nice. Yeah, that's nice.
And so you said something interesting too, that I think part of my whole show of doing this show is your want, and this is not, you would think that this skill that is a skill everyone would have, but everybody doesn't have this, that sitting there with your album or your singing or going, okay, I did X, Y, and Z. Okay, what was good? What was bad? Okay, I need to work on the, and you sit there and do that whole framework. Well, that's the thing, kind of transitioning to teaching is something that I've been trying to do more with my students. I know that I do that very well. I sit there and I'm probably a nutcase. I'm going like, okay, so the D was flat and this, and then I'm just analyzing. Sure. And that's why I can't enjoy music anymore. It's I'm so good at that, seeing 6 things wrong with this chorus right now, while the kid plays it. But that idea that I'm trying to literally ask the kid, you know, and not necessarily do it over a whole song, but like a line or something of a song, and I'm like, okay, how was that? You know, don't tell them, make the student tell me,
Yes.
to try to get them to get into that
Yes.
framework of, yeah, okay, so everything was great, but you know, 6 of my notes actually sounded, my tone was bad,
Right.
yeah, everything was great, but the rhythm, you know, was a little bit behind,
Sure,
whatever
sure.
the thing is. And so like that's the thing I've been frustrated with my students, because I've been on this quest to figure out like how to motivate my students more. And like I know what motivates me in music is that when music is played badly, it pisses me off. It makes me angry,
Right,
you know,
right.
and like for instance, when this perfectly laid back song is like that much too fast, it makes me angry. I'm
Right,
like, you
right.
just ruined this moment for me. Because
yeah.
shaky ground is one I always use. Standing on shaky ground. Like at the blues jams, they just do it that much too fast.
Too fast,
I'm like,
yeah.
oh, dude, you gotta lay that back more. It's like you just
Right.
ruined this.
Sure,
you know?
sure.
So I know that's what makes me motivated is because when I'm playing this C sharp and I gotta reach a little bit, it's not because that says C sharp. It's because that's what it's supposed to sound like.
Right.
And that's what motivates me to want to play
Represent
well.
the music.
But when a student doesn't understand that,
Yeah.
it drives me nuts because
Right.
I don't understand what their motivation is. So like when you're teaching, do you ever run into that motivation problem?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like,
I would say I have it's funny. I have a completely different view.
do it.
Yeah, it's like almost the exact opposite.
Yeah, well, say it.
Basically, I think when music's fucked up, I think it's funny.
Oh, well,
I laugh
yeah.
about
Okay,
it. I
yeah.
actually have like this giggly thing.
Yeah.
And I also don't get really tied into a way a song should sound in any given moment. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Okay, yeah.
Like if I heard a song on the radio, like let's say I heard, I think I heard like Bulls on Parade on the way over here by Rage Against the Machine. And that song just kicks tremendous ass, right? The energy. And if I saw a cover band do it, I would not expect them to do it anywhere near the same way. I would just like to enjoy to see how they can represent this song.
Yeah.
Oh, they happen to be playing it a little slow. Oh, well, that's just how they do it. You know, that's their expression of it. So I try to come from a completely different.
Well, that's not, and that's not what I mean. I'm not saying that,
right.
you know, all this improv we're talking about, obviously you improv it and
Right,
it's different,
right.
whatever. I guess what I'm talking about is on a Beethoven, you know, the reason why I put my finger there and not here is because that's what C sharp sounds like. That's more of what I mean, is that I'm not doing it because it's on the page. I'm doing it because that's what this song sounds like.
Right.
Not that you can't alter a chorus here and do an extra bridge and do it, you know, that's not what I'm talking about. But they don't, the students don't look at it like that is my problem. It's more about because music is awesome and it sounds awesome. When it's irrelevant if I want to choose to do C sharp, this is what C sharp sounds like.
Right.
It's not flat, it's not sharp, it's exactly, you know, that's kind of more.
I understand what you're saying. I think one thing I don't see it as a problem. Well, here's the thing is, a lot of students, I think, they're not doing it for that reason. They're doing it because it's fun. Right? It's a playful.
Right.
It's a fun way to create in the world. You're creating and it's fun, right? Like imagine a kid playing in the sandbox and then someone saying, "Well, you're not playing correctly." Right? It'd be silly to say that, right?
Right.
So it's more like a childlike thing for me where I'm like not trying to make them sound a certain way. I'm just trying to let them build a relationship with the instrument and that they're smiling and having a good time. I really come from that place, and then I already have all this music knowledge. I don't have to worry about that part. That's going to come out easily when they ask, right? Or when I need to infuse some knowledge. That's the part that I think it's just more of the, because I have some students that are not motivated at all, and I don't think they practice very, very little. They tell me, I ask them straight up, and they don't. And then I say, well, I guess we can practice right now. And they're like, okay. And then, but we have fun. Like they're always, I'm not holding it against them. Right, I'm not like making them feel guilty about it, because I noticed that if you ride that out, eventually they get motivated. Something happens, and they're inspired, and all of a sudden they're practicing every day. And I'm like, whoa, you're getting better. You're practicing, and you can tell they've tasted the fruit. They've gotten a taste of something. That the reason we enjoy music, there's a lot of reasons, but there's something that they tasted that was too good to ignore, and I think that happens. But I mean, I dealt with that when I first started teaching, and it's frustrating. For sure. It's definitely frustrating. And I think almost every teacher I teach with has that same issue. It's like they're not as motivated
It's
as
number
I
one.
am. Yeah.
It's number one problem.
Yeah. You feel like they don't care. Why are you here? You know,
I always want to go to the horse's mouth, that fixes the biggest issue on the table.
Sure.
I guess and that's where I, for myself, need to keep working on is the fun, because and that's one issue I have with classical teaching.
Right.
But where I always have the tug of war going on is that I'll see a kid that's like in 8th grade, and so they've now got 3 or 4 years under their belt. They've been playing an orchestra at school, let's say, and they're starting to feel it. They're like, I can sort of kind of play this thing now. They're not on the first week. They're I can sort of play some like 2-page songs now, or something but we all know, because my problem always comes back to you play, one of your songs in Satori or Twinkle Twinkle, it's like, well, which is more fun? If we're going to use that fun word, well, it's not even close. That crap is more fun. But the only way to do that is to do all this other crap
I hear what you're saying. But it's important.
The more work you do, the more fun you have. So that's the problem. Is that it's always that balance of, do you do the games at the end of lesson of, do the music games and you make it fun, but see, the problem with motivation for me is that's, to me, where the motivation comes is that you start to sound good. Because there's a lot of parts to the motivation. There's the jealousy we talked about earlier.
Sure.
There's that we're literally sitting here smiling in lesson and it's sort of fun and da-da-da. But the other thing is the internal thing where they're like, man, I kind of can sort of like play something on this guitar right now, and that leads you with the internal motivation. So I don't know how to square those away right now. I'm still like grappling,
Yeah. Well, I know one thing I work on doing, and this might be useful. I know that one way to inspire or motivate is through showing them how much you enjoy music.
You're right.
Right. So I notice, like, when I'm teaching lessons, like an exercise on the guitar, that might be kind of maybe boring because it's an exercise, maybe a scale work. I'll notice if I practice it with focus, laser focus, and I'm just like, every note I'm like making love to, I'm just this sounds so good, and I'm not faking it. I'm like, this, I just love the way this instrument sounds. And with like a metronome on, and I'm showing them what it looks like for a professional musician to practice and also enjoy himself while he's doing it. All of a sudden they want to do that exercise. Oh, can you show me how to do that? I sure can. It's the major scale. This is the scale that if I would have just opened up the lesson with, hey, you're going to learn the major scale, kid, they're going to be like, what's that? I don't know if I want to learn that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I try to know, or I know that is definitely a helpful way to do it. Like play for them. And show them what it looks like and how much fun it is.
Sure.
Yeah,
I think I do a pretty good job of that. I definitely. It's hard to talk to me for more than 2 seconds and know that I'm not like completely obsessed with music.
Sure.
So I definitely show them the passion. I do like that idea of being really passionate even during the boring exercises, and the fakeness that we were talking about earlier, how you can't fake it. Well, I think all of us know that the reason why we are still liking that scale is because of the mentality that every time I put my hands on this instrument, I want it to sound good. I'm trying to do it with integrity and perfection, whatever that word means. But that's why it's not fake, right? Is because I have that mentality that I'm going to make the scale as
Right.
good as it
Yeah.
can possibly
Right now.
and you're trying
this
to
is
show
the best
them,
it's ever sounded.
yes, yeah, right,
And
yeah.
with my fingers and my mind, this is the
Right.
best. So right now, this one is going to be the best.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, for sure. No.
And so I'm still grappling with that
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
idea
yeah,
of
yeah.
dealing with the motivation, because what I found is that, like, because it's sort of like improv, where once you get the brick wall, bust through the brick wall of them not being scared, it's over. You
Right.
know, I mean,
Sure.
then they're off and running.
Sure,
You
they
can
are,
tell them
yeah.
whatever you need to tell
Then
them.
they're- yeah,
You got to
yeah,
get done
yeah.
with that barrier. Well,
That's true.
The motivation thing is sort of the same. I mean, once they like playing, it's
Uh-huh.
over. You know,
Right,
because then they're
right.
listening to everything. They're
Sure.
hanging on your
Sure.
word, and so like, but it's just hard. I don't, it's. And do you think that, so here's another deep question for you. Do you think that there's some people that were meant for it or not?
That's a really good question. I like that question.
In general,
I've definitely
like,
thought that.
yeah.
Because when I first started teaching, I thought, you know what, everybody can be a musician.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to convince everybody that they
Mhm.
are,
Mhm.
right? And then I realized, I don't know about that. I think we all have the potential to be musicians.
Mhm.
But I don't think everybody has the desire, right?
That's it.
That's
That's
where
it,
I
yeah,
think it
yeah.
is. I think it's, and I don't think everybody should necessarily have the desire to be a musician. I think the world is so infinitely evolving and changing. Like, we need people, we need firemen,
Yeah.
we need policemen,
Yeah,
we
and
need
the accountants.
accountants, we
Yeah,
need
yeah.
people to be able to embrace different aspects of reality and shine in that way. We
Yeah.
don't need our accountant to be able to play Sweet Home Alabama on the guitar.
Right.
That's not, you
Right.
know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I think it has to do with that, because I definitely feel some students, like, I can tell they're like they're going to be probably a very successful person. They have really good
In general,
drive
yeah,
in general,
yeah.
and they're intelligent and they're picking things up.
Right.
But it doesn't seem like they have the passion for it. They don't
yeah.
have the desire to be a great musician. They have the desire to be great, but not as a musician.
Right.
It's going to be as something else.
Right.
You know.
And that's where I'm at too with this idea of motivation, is that, I know I'm a person that is trying. I can see what my teacher in high school was talking about. She always talked about the turtle story, where she's like, if your turtle's coming across the road, and if you're trying, then the guy swerves around the turtle, and if you're not really trying to get across the street, then the guy's flat,
Right,
with the
right.
car. And her point was that if you're trying, like, I'm gonna bend over backwards for you, but if you're not, I got to move on,
Right,
right.
right.
Emotionally
Sure,
move on from
sure,
the student,
sure.
and kind of, and you could almost argue a give up,
Right,
because
right.
in orchestra she's got 120 other students, so I only have so many breaths in life, and so that's something that I would always want to take my work home with me, like the worrying about it.
Yeah.
Okay, what have I not done for the student? Am I not doing my perfect amount of motivation? Am I not doing? And I wonder if there's ones that are. Two questions. One, if this student and I are just not gonna click,
Right.
like personality wise, so
Sure.
it doesn't matter what I do, it's
Right.
not gonna happen.
Right.
And they hate this anyway.
Sure.
The parents making them, and so there's no amount of trying, and there's no amount of motivation that I'm gonna get them to do. Or is it just a bad personality fit, and they just want a different person?
Right.
They could be good at music, but it's just a me and them
Sure.
thing, and that's perfectly legitimate.
Sure.
But I don't know. I mean, do you have moments there where you just need to super let it go? I mean, have you had students like that?
I have, would say that I am constantly trying to not expect anything out of them. That's like the practice.
Yeah.
There's I'm laying no expectations at your feet so that you're free to do what you want. And if you genuinely like it, I don't have to do anything, because you're going to do it anyway. Right. So that's big for me. That's what it's like a practice. You can't just wake up and be like, I don't expect anything from myself. Like, you need to, it's something you practice over time. Like, I'm big into yoga and mindfulness and meditation. So these are things I derive from that kind of philosophy, where it's like expectations in general can just lead to a lot of mental anguish. Suffering, mental pain.
Unfulfilled expectations.
Exactly. That's not
It's
cool.
the
Nobody
reason
likes
for
that.
most anger. I heard a dude
And
say
then you
that.
resent the person because they didn't fulfill your expectations, and that's not good either.
See, and that's awesome you said that, because the expectations to me are the problem, because I can
Right.
feel it just in you
Sure.
saying I have high expectations for
Sure.
them, and I think
because you care.
Because I
it comes
care.
from a healthy, caring place.
and it's back to that pisses me off. It pisses me off when
Right.
it's played
Right. Yeah.
But I can separate like adults and kids. I can like when you were joking about like it makes me laugh. Like with the kids
Right.
doing it, I'm not
Sure.
screaming. Like it is
Yeah,
funny.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's
for
really
sure,
funny. You
for
know,
sure.
so. But I know that like that's what happens at jams for me is when the 50-year-olds who start talking a bunch of crap and then they mess up, like I can't take it.
Sure,
You know,
sure,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like
yeah.
that really makes me angry.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and because I have a different level of expectation, obviously, on this kid.
Sure.
And so I know like so you were talking about the practicing of the expectation, because
Letting
I'm not
go
gonna
of it.
I'm
Of
not
letting
gonna
go
be
of the
yeah letting go
expectations.
I'm not gonna be able to switch that off in 5 seconds.
Sure.
And
But it's just
so
like
it's
a
pra-
reminder, like when you start expecting something out of a student,
is it
and
is
you
it,
catch yourself, oh, I'm expecting them to be able to do this by next week. Just drop it. I don't want any expectations at all. When they come in, and if they happen to have worked on the scale or they happen to have learned the song, great. We'll move from there. But if not, just
See, and are you so? Would you say that the practicing of the expectation there, or lack of, that first could start with my verbiage to them, right? Because I
Yes,
might not
for
stop
sure.
in my head,
Right.
but I can stop
That's
the.
a good point.
you
Yes.
know.
Right. Try to,
Don't say it
or
wrong,
well,
but,
first
yeah.
you do. I think the first step would you be is acknowledge, just live like you normally do, and just be aware of when you're placing expectations. Take mental notes, and then the next week be like, okay, try to tone it down, and try to drop those. You know.
Well, wouldn't that be the entire lesson? You know what I mean?
Well,
Hey, you know,
yeah,
every
I mean,
single
it's-
moment I'm
yeah.
going to play this,
Right.
and I have an expectation of how good they're going to play this measure or
Yeah.
something. You know,
It's more.
That'd be
Yes. Well.
every single moment. kind of
Right.
a-
Yeah. It
Yikes.
is. It's wild. Yeah.
How many times you're
mean,
putting expectations?
Well, it's funny
on them?
because whenever I'm watching them play a scale and I don't have any expectations, it's almost like they're taking me on a mini adventure. Where are you going with your fingers? Are you going to play the scale right? I don't know. I'm watching. It's like a drama unfolding, you know? So it can be cool in that sense, you know? And it's just, that's how I've been able to do that. I know the situation you're talking about, though. The kid is not driven to do anything. They're there because their parents are paying for it. And like, what kind of music you like? I don't know. Well, why do you want to learn to play the guitar? I don't know. You know, those kind of very just like, they don't seem to have any direction in life. And it's like, all right, well, let's learn a G chord, I guess, you know.
Right.
That's a struggle, but
Yeah.
I have noticed the more I've let go of expectations, the less I run into that. And that's just how I've dealt with it.
And you're not punching your face at night time either.
No.
You've totally.
But I
you know,
developed that from my working in the corporate world at
Mm.
Farmers Insurance. I dropped that shit when I left the parking lot.
Yeah,
I'm not
right.
I'm not an accountant anymore. I'm not a claims adjuster anymore. I'm Brandon. I'm a musician. Now I'm gonna go home and play my fucking guitar.
Right.
And not think about that shit. I could
Right.
do that for whatever reason. It's just a skill I have. And so with music, with teaching, I keep that skill. I don't
Yeah.
think about my students when I'm not around them.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously sometimes you
Sure.
think about them.
Yeah.
But I don't like dwell
on it.
I'm
yeah.
not dwelling on any of it. I also have been teaching about 35 lessons a week for
Yeah, wow.
4 years.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a lot of
That's a lot
lessons.
of lessons,
I've been
yeah.
really, and I'm constantly learning and trying to grow and become better as a
Yeah.
teacher. So it's just refining over a long period of time.
And I know that because on my end, I can tell that there's, with that expectation that I know I'm probably setting, I can tell that it's always about 2/3 of the students. You know, even if they
Right.
don't get really good, and even if they don't, I can tell like 2/3 of the students and parents are 100% with me. I can
Right.
feel it. I mean, we have
Sure.
a great rapport,
Right.
and then you have that other third
Uh-huh.
that basically kind of emotionally says, "I'm not coming with you."
Sure.
You know, and
Sure.
so that's one reason why I think it happens with myself that a bunch of students that stay with me for like 3 years, and then a bunch of them that quit after a month.
Sure.
You know, and so it's either
yeah.
one or the other, and maybe that's a bad thing. That's a you're with me or against me kind of a mentality. But I can tell that when I set those expectations and I talk to the parents, like they're really happy that I do. You know, I can tell that this is what they want out of the lesson, but it definitely runs me into problems of the worrying and being annoyed and all that. So I don't know, you know, if that, like you're saying, maybe that is the solution of, because.
Well, I think it helps. It lightens any kind of like, it lightens the mood.
Yeah.
And that's comfortable. If someone's comfortable around you, they are more likely to pay for more lessons. End of story. End of story. Yeah. So if they're if that's like your default, it's comfortable.
Right.
You know, that's kind of what and that's with the no expectations. It makes it very comfortable because they're not worried about trying to live up to any expectations that you might set. So I've noticed with that, I have a tendency to keep students longer that don't want to learn how to play the guitar.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird.
And that's no, I don't think it's weird at all. That makes 100% sense, and that's something that I could, because so that's kind of what we're saying, is that you're adjusting to every student, and you have to. I mean, you kind of have to meet them where they're at. But even not just ability level, but like mentality.
Yeah,
I mean,
like some of them I feel like I have students that range from, I would say, 8 or so to like, you know, I don't know how my oldest, probably in their 50s.
Yeah.
You know, and the range of like, you know, I would say 8 to 17, 18, I mean, kids in school, sometimes they don't really want it. They don't have the desire, but like, they like the friendship, the bond.
Yeah.
Because I'm this like 36-year-old, long hair, kind of goofy. I like to be goofy around them. I'm not afraid to be like childlike. I'm very open, and I'm enjoying myself. They're like kind of enamored by that, and they kind of like think they're cool for a little bit.
Right.
It's a half hour a week, and I get to hang out with this cool guy kind of thing. And I'm like, since I don't have any expectations, I'm just like, we can develop like a little bond. And I think, you know, maybe they're not going to grow up to be a musician, but I can be a positive role model on them, a positive male role model. Yeah. Like, this is what a healthy man looks like. He's happy to be alive. He likes to, you know, create art, and he's, you know, like, you know, that. So there's a deeper thing, I think, that can be had.
Sure, and I've talked about that a lot. Is that's also for myself of how I've been thinking how I can get around, or what's the word? I can justify the motivational things of the playing. Is that you think about all these non-musical, you know, that you're teaching them time management. You're teaching them a good role model. You're teaching them, you know, and that's how I can like emotionally get over it. That's helped me get over it. With now that gets into a problem of the teaching them the hard work though, you know, because now you're not really teaching them hard work because you're not really tricky. No expectations.
I know.
But the excuses one is making excuses. You know, that's a whole nother non-musical skill that has nothing to do with music, but but that's relevant in sports, you know, like, so that's what helps me, I guess, is the non-musical stuff.
But think about too, if you're working on motivating someone who's not motivated, and you develop a bond, a friendship with them over, let's say, a month or two, and you know you have to take them easy because they're going to shut down if you try to make them work hard because they don't want to work hard. They play a lot of video games or whatever, right? A lot of kids do that, right? And they just don't have this specific drive that you know that you want to give them to motivate them. But if you wait it out long enough to where the bond is something they care about, they'll listen to you.
Yeah, then you got.
They'll listen to you then, and you can say, "Hey, it's a good idea sometimes to maybe set a goal and work towards it and work hard and see if we can accomplish this goal."
Right.
And then, you know, that kind of thing.
But bond comes first.
But if you do that first, and they're not a habitual hard worker already. This guy's trying to tell me to do something I've never done before, and I'm not going to do that. Why should I listen to this guy?
Yeah, that's good.
Right. But if the friend is telling you some advice, you're going to listen to them.
Yeah, that's great, man.
Right.
Cool. So last question I had was that I know a lot of us that have not done jazzy stuff before. When we come at a lot of the stuff that is either in odd meters or has a lot, has a lot of chords to it. Was there something that was really tricky for you coming, because I know you probably played in some rock type bands then moving into
that's exactly right.
the
I was
freaking
more
30 chord tunes, was there something that was really hard or easy about that, or like talk about that?
I would say the hardest part for me was the playing so cerebrally, because if you're playing even just take like a standard like Autumn Leaves, if you would have gave me that piece when I was just a rock player, I would have been like, what key is it in? And the center of the key, right? And then I would have just lost myself in the scale.
Yeah.
All emotion and which is beautiful. And then when I started looking at it from the jazz perspective, it was like I couldn't do that anymore. I had to think my way through everything in order to reach a higher level of musicianship. So I was sacrificing that on purpose. But that was still a hard adjustment, because in part of you, you're losing part of you, and it's like, I just want to play sometimes, so that was tricky, but it was also very rewarding too, because I was more command over the harmonic structure. Weaving in and out of these chords, arpeggios, was beautiful when you did it right. And so it was very rewarding, but it was very challenging for sure.
Yeah.
I think my ear has always been challenging too, because I have an accounting degree, right? I wasn't like I did study music minor a little bit towards the end, but I never completed it. So I studied a little bit in college.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it was like one-on-one lessons with Brian Ruskin. And, I took some lessons from Rod Fleeman.
Rod's something else.
Oh, I know. He's amazing. And my musicianship is this collaboration of very random things, And so I think the ear was hard for me too. Hearing, like, they'd be like, Brian would be like, you'll hear the changes. I'm like, no, I won't. I haven't labeled them in my mind yet, like you have. I haven't, there's, ear training. I haven't done any ear training.
Yeah.
I've just enjoyed music. Right. So that was the hardest part for me, but it was also balancing me out. It was more like right brain, left brain. I was all just creative play without as much structure. This jazz gave me more structure.
Yeah.
Now when I play and when I improvise, I can improvise like I'm creating a story.
Yeah.
And I know the harmonies behind me and the chords moving behind me, and I can move in and out of these leading tones and all this shit. And it's like, whoa, because I've practiced it and I honed that skill. Now I can just allow it all to happen.
Right.
So.
And that you said something interesting that we kind of hit on before, and this is where I keep coming back to my thing, is that you're like, well, I had to chop off an arm and I had to regrow another arm again, with this new way of thinking. And this is always the problem, because right after that you go, but it was rewarding, and that's where going back to the motivation thing of where I can't get I have to chop off that arm because I can't let go of that. But with the student, for example, I know what's going to happen with them, because this happens with everyone, is when you make them go through this process, they get out the other side and they go, oh my gosh, I can play this.
Sure, totally.
So I just
you've traveled the path.
I've traveled the path.
But that's the thing is anything experiential like that cannot be relayed.
You can't relate to them. They're never gonna.
Yeah.
It's impossible for them to understand.
Right. That's why I think trying to just show them through your actions is one of the ways to do it. But
that's cool, man. So very last question: is there one huge piece of, now that you've gone on your journey here, even in the last 8 whatever years of kind of getting into the music scene, is there one big piece of advice that you would give to any like 20-year-old-ish that's wanting to get into music?
Yeah, I think it's really important. It was really important for me to identify my strengths. I noticed right away that I was a teacher. It was obvious. I really enjoyed it, and I noticed right away that teaching is a really good way to get financial security, because it's just more secure than gigging, right? And so finding your strengths, identifying all your strengths, and then how do I utilize this monetarily? Just figuring that out is really important. Because if you can get a base income off music, then that's good. That's a good place to start. Try to get there. Just do anything you need to get there, and follow your strengths in that sense. That would be probably some good advice, I think.
Caleb said the same general thing. He's like, find your niche, and that was an annoying piece of advice because I was sort of like a classical player, but I sort of could do some country stuff, and I kind of had rock, and I wanted to dive into this jazz hard.
As far as like that's just as far as financially becoming a musician, with stability. But as far as like writing goes, I think it's like anything else. Just write a shit ton of songs. Just keep writing. Just write. It's a skill set, just like learning scales. You could have a badass guitarist who can't write for shit. Right? Or you could have an amazing writer that can barely play the guitar. Right? You know? Yeah,
so, and what I was saying was he was telling me you got to find your niche in town, and that's going to help you a lot, because I think he was talking in regards to that stability that you were talking about, because like I wanted to be, you know, gypsy jazz guy at the Green Lady Lounge, you know, but I've realized that like my thing is like fifth or sixth person in a really heavy gigging country band where I'm like the main soloer, or in a, you know, blues rock country kind of thing.
Your strength.
That's my strength, and I'm gonna get a lot of calls for that, which I have been. It's been successful, but I haven't gotten enough calls in there. But jazz wise, I'm, you know, number of years wise I'm not behind, but jazz wise I'm pretty far behind somebody like all these guys went through jazz band in high school, and they have they've got 10 years of jazz chops. Even my age people have 10 years longer jazz. So that was kind of maybe similar to your advice of kind of figure out a thing that you can stabilize.
One way to identify that too is if it comes easy to you.
Yeah, right.
And people overlook that all the time. Like, I'll have students are like, why don't we work on this? Oh, that's too easy. Well, if it's easy, then you should do it.
Perfect.
Because that's your strength. That's something not everybody thinks that's easy.
Right.
There's a lot of people who think that's hard as shit. So you should do that.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and that was mine too. Is that I didn't want to like admit that.
Right.
You know,
either. It took me a long time.
Like
Totally.
But I'm actually good at it.
But when you finally embrace it, it's like, oh wow, yeah. No, I struggled with that for a long time myself. Which in teaching, you see all this, I see all this. The things I end up teaching a lot of my students, I'm teaching myself that I have issues with. You know, you know, the expectations and all that. I'm just like, I'm learning so much through the process too.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of wild.
And the teaching playing thing was another one too. Is I think I did the same thing as you. I'm like, my brain thinks as a teacher. I can analyze all this stuff. I can verbalize it. I would go through all this mental exercise even if I wasn't teaching anyway. So that tells you something. Sure. But you have this Aerosmith dream, you know, but then you realize that like, yeah, I could still do this. I can still play in bands, but my bread and butter intellectually and what's more useful monetary wise is
teaching.
Yeah, and so that embrace.
Not everybody, and you know, we said earlier, not everybody can teach. There's a ton of musicians that are amazing that can't teach for shit. So the fact that it comes easier to us, we shouldn't be overlooking that. We should utilize it, which we are.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure.
That's cool, man. So real fast, give your shout out to Satori again.
Yeah, check us out. We are on Facebook, Satori. We're also on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud. Check us out. We've got a new album coming out. It just got mastered yesterday, actually.
Cool.
So we just got to get some production stuff done, and we've got our next show in the books. We got a Uptown Arts Bar.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
September 14th, I think. But it'll be on Facebook if you like our Facebook page. So check us out.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, I know I've been a big fan of you guys. You know, I know that we're all. I put out a Facebook post the other day of
Yeah.
like, where's all the prog rock?
Right,
You know, what's going on here?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and I know you guys are big.
It's a very progressive sound, and
Yeah.
we blend rock, and we got jazz elements, and we've got crazy chord movements, all kinds of stuff that Caleb comes up with. That is just like, all right.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I would never have thought of that. Let's do that.
Well, I'm a big supporter of the like, and I talked to Scotty McBee about this, where all of us like in here is rock, but
Right.
in here isn't rock.
Sure,
it's jazz
sure.
and like a bunch of craziness,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
I love music
Mixing
like
it,
that,
mixing
and
it
the
together,
mixing
yeah.
of maybe you don't have to write a 3.5 minute song. Maybe
Right.
you don't.
Right.
Maybe we could make this a little intellectual.
Our
and-
new
and-
album, I think there's at least three songs that are over 7 minutes long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
So,
I mean,
we write long songs.
This isn't done in 3 minutes. I got more to say.
We got we're
Yeah.
taking our time here. We enjoy this.
Build it. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, for sure.
So that's cool. I really support you guys doing music like that,
Yeah.
and I think it's always cool. But Brandon, thanks for coming, man.
Awesome.
Yeah. But anyways, we'll be back next time.
Yeah.
You guys get out of here. See you later.
Peace.